beneficent and the most merciful. I'd like to thank Allah for giving us the opportunity to commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Husayn alayhi salatu wassalam. The caravan of Imam Husayn halts at the land of Karbala, and the armies of Yazid, may Allah curse him, are arriving on the land of Karbala as well. Quickly, Karim ibn Karim rushes to them with Abbas and Ali Akbar والسلام, to quench their thirst. I say, oh my Mawla, it will be the same Karbala, it will be the same army, and when you ask for water for your little Ali Asghar, instead he will receive an arrow, which will pierce his throat and he will embrace his martyrdom. May I please ask Ali Abbas to come and recite a few verses of the Holy Quran. For Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. اللهم صل على محمد.
اللهم صل على Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajah. MashaAllah, that was Ali Abbas reading the Holy Quran. May I please ask Sajjad Rizvi to come and recite the salam. For Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajah.
یارا بہا کے زہرا توفیق یہ عطا ہو مرنے سے پہلے یارا دیدار کربلا ہو یارا بہا کے زہرا توفیق یہ عطا ہو مرنے سے پہلے یارا دیدار کربلا ہو جو عرض کربلا ہے ہر عرض سے سوا ہے اس خاک کربلا میں شہ کا لہو ملا ہے شہ کا لہو ملا ہے ہر لا دوا مرض کی یہ خاک ہی دوا ہو مرنے سے پہلے یارا دیدار کربلا ہو میں بھی تو ماتمی ہوں ذاکر ہوں سیدہ کا نوحہ پڑھا ہے میں نے ہم شکل مصطفیٰ کا ہم شکل مصطفیٰ کا اس ذاکری کا میری قسمت میں یہ صلہ ہو مرنے سے پہلے یارا دیدار کربلا ہو یارا بہا کے زہرا توفیق یہ عطا ہو مرنے سے پہلے یارا دیدار کربلا ہو یا رب نماز شب میں بس یہ دعا کروں میں کچھ دیر اس زمین پر مجلس بپا کروں میں مجلس بپا کروں میں ہر ماتمی کے لب پر ہر دم یہی دعا ہو مرنے سے پہلے یارا دیدار کربلا ہو مظلومیات پہ جس کی روتا ہے یہ زمانہ اس بے خطا کے در پہ ایک بار تو ہے جانا ایک بار تو ہے جانا جو قرض ہے لہو پر وہ اس طرح ادا ہو مرنے سے پہلے یارا دیدار کربلا ہو یارا بہا کے زہرا توفیق یہ عطا ہو مرنے سے پہلے یا رب دیدار کربلا ہو. وہ سرزمین جہاں پر گونجی اذان اکبر، تسبیح آنسوؤں کی پڑھنی ہے اس زمیں پر، پڑھنی ہے اس زمیں پر. ایک سجدہ عقیدت اس خاک پر ادا ہو، مرنے سے پہلے یا رب دیدار کربلا ہو. قربان ہو گیا جو کلثوم کی دعا پر، روضہ میں اس کا دیکھوں جو مر گیا وفا پر، جو مر گیا وفا پر. گر یہ شرف بھی میری تقدیر میں لکھا ہو، مرنے سے پہلے یا رب دیدار کربلا ہو. یا رب حق زہرا توفیق یہ عطا ہو، مرنے سے پہلے یا رب دیدار کربلا ہو. بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات اللہ.
اللہم صل
صل
علی
علی
محمد وآل
محمد وآل
محمد وعجل
محمد
فرجہ.
وعجل فرجہ.
MashaAllah, that was Sajjad Rizvi. May I please request Maulana Syed Bilal Rizvi to come forth and recite the majlis. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma
اللهم
salli
صل
ala
على
Muhammad wa
محمد
ali
وعلى
Muhammad wa
محمد
ajil
وعجل
farajah.
فرجه.
سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله الأول بلا أول كان قبله والآخر بلا آخر يكون بعده والحمد لله الذي عجزت عن رؤيته أبصار. والصلاة والسلام على إمام القبلتين ونبي الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين وجد الحسن والحسين الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على
صل على
محمد وعلى
محمد
محمد
وآل
وعجل
محمد
فرجah.
اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والثولة الحيدرية والإسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والإبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكاذنية والحجج الرضبية والجود الثقبية والنقابة النقبية والهيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية. اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه. أما بعد، فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ثم أورثنا الكتاب الذين استفينا من عبادنا فمنهم ظالم لنفسه ومنهم مقتصد ومنهم سابق بالخيرات بإذن الله ذلك هو الفضل الكبير. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل
وآل
محمد
محمد
وعجل
وعجل.
فرجهم. نعرہ تکبیر،
الله أكبر.
نعرہ رسالت،
يا رسول الله.
نعرہ حیدری.
يا
We've entered the third night of our discussions. The topic, it remains Imam al-Husayn, the Warith and the inheritor of the prophets. We seek to go through and understand the lines of the famous Ziyaratul Waritha. On the first night, I examined the month of Muharram and the importance of the Aza of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And yesterday, I had in general discussion about the nature of ziyarah and what the true essence and reality and haqiqah of ziyarat is. And from today, we come towards the actual text of the ziyarah, that ziyarah which says, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Adam safwatillah. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Nuhin Nabiyallah. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Ibrahim Khalilullah. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Musa Kalimullah. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Isa Ruhullah. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Muhammadin Habibillah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Within the text of the ziyarah, we address Imam al-Husayn as the inheritor of each of these prophets, that he is the inheritor of Adam, he is the inheritor of Nuh, he is the inheritor of Ibrahim, of Musa, of Isa, and finally, he is the inheritor of Rasulullah. The subject of tonight's discussion is that what do we mean when we say that Imam al-Husayn is the inheritor of these prophets? That what is mirat, what is inheritance, and specifically what is the mirat of Imam al-Husayn that he received from each of these prophets? Because if we don't understand the title of the ziyarah, Ziyaratul Waritha, and we don't understand what inheritance is and what mirat is, then this recitation of Ziyaratul Waritha, even though a superficial recitation, it benefits individuals, but you find the maximum level of benefit can't be derived for a person until they understand what they are reciting. That's why Ahlul Bayt would say, Hadithun tadrihi khairum min alfi hadithin tarwihi. One hadith which you understand is greater than 1,000 which you just narrate and recite. Because when you understand a tradition, you've taken something which was on paper or something which was an audio hearing, and you have taken it within your understanding and you can apply it to your life and the society around you. So that's why to understand the nature of what is being said is important. Now, when we come to the subject of inheritance, there is a very important distinction in the Arabic language between the word irth and the word mirat. Now, the word irth is used in the Quran and the word mirat is used within the Quran. But sometimes they are used with one word, and that word is turat. You see, this word turat, it comes within the Quran in Surah Al-Fajr, chapter 89, verse 19. The Quran says, وَتَأْكِلُونَ التُّرَاتِ أَكْلًا أَكْلًا. That these people, they eat what others have given towards them. So you find over here, it is used with the maina irth. The meaning of the word irth is more general, meaning irth is something that you inherit, but it doesn't have any specific applications. It's a more general application. And when this verse, it says that they eat this inheritance, what this means is what they receive from their fathers correctly, they take it. But what doesn't belong to them, they take it as well. But now there is a second word, and that word is mirat. Mirat has two conditions. When we say Imam al-Husayn is the inheritor of the prophets, and he is the warith of them, you find there are two conditions to the inheritance of this type. The first condition is that irth is from one person. Irth is what your father leaves towards you, for example. Whereas mirat can be from a group of people, that when you say that I have the bravery of this tribe, this is mirat because it's from a group of people. But the second condition of mirat and this form of inheritance is that it continues today, that you have taken this and it is still continuing. For example, in past societies, it was a custom amongst men to have henna, and they would put it in their beards. And this was in that society of that time. Now today, it's applied much less because it's not found and it's not practically here today. It's something of the past. We don't call it mirat. So mirat is something which continues. When we say Imam al-Husayn is the inheritor of these prophets, you find that inheritance is something which continued. And there's one verse of the Quran which speaks about inheritance in a very clear manner. And that is the verse which I recited, Surah Al-Fatir, chapter 35, the verse is verse 32. And it says, Tumma awratna al-kitab alladhina istaqina min ibadina. And we had made them the inheritors of the book. We have made them the warith of the kitab, those whom we have made Mustafa and chosen from amongst our servants. That the inheritors of the book are those who are chosen from amongst the servants. Then after that, it says, فَمِنْهُمْ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. Amongst them are those who oppress themselves. وَمِنْهُمْ مُقْتَصِدٌ. Then there are those of the middle class, of the average class. Then it says, وَمِنْهُمْ سَابِقٌ بِالْخَيْرَاتِ. and then there are those who come to the forefront of doing good, and this is what the verse it says. Now you find there are two opinions amongst the mufassirun to this ayat and this verse. Amongst the non-Shia commentators, they said that the entire ummah is the inheritor of the book. And the dalil they gave, and it's good to listen to the proofs of other people, the dalil they gave is that this ayat says that there are some who are dalim and oppressors, there are some of the middle class, and there are some of the forefront. So based on this, the inheritors of the book over here, they must be the entire ummah. But no, Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam and the scholars from the school of Ahlul Bayt, they said that it is not the entire ummah, but it is those who were chosen and purified from amongst the lineage of Rasulullah. That's why we have the tradition of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. They said to the Imam, Man humul mustafun min hadhihi al-ayah, that who are the chosen people from amongst this ayah? Imam al-Rida says that we are those chosen people from this verse. We are the inheritors of the kitab. Then he says that the verse it says that some of them are oppressors to their souls. They are the ones who have not recognized the haqq of us, Ali Muhammad. And then when it says some of them are the middle class, this is a reference towards our Shia and those who recognize our right. And then it says, وَمِنْهُمْ سَابِقٌ بِالْخَيْرَاتِ. Then there are those who are at the forefront of khairat and doing good. That is a reference to us, the Imams. So within this verse, and you find the Quran, it says that we have made them the inheritors of the book who are Mustafa and chosen. I ask you a question. Is everyone from amongst the ummah of the Prophet chosen? No. There is a select group which is Mustafa. There is a select group which is chosen. But then the question comes up, okay, if there is a select group which is chosen, and they are the purest of people, why does the verse say that some of them are dalims, oppressors, and some of them are the middle class, and some of them are at the forefront of doing good? You see over here, like, one thing can be a continuation, but then there can be a breakup in the sentence. Over here, it is not describing who the chosen people are. Over here, it is giving a reason. And to understand this ayat, the reason is this, is that we have made the chosen people the inheritors of the book. Why? Because the ummah has people who are dalim, and the ummah has people of the middle class, and some of them are good. Because there are dalimun amongst the ummah, then the entire ummah is not the inheritor of the book. So in this ayat, it is for ta'leel and for a reason. Now, I know many of these are dry discussions, but it is necessary to understand what the Quran says about mirat if we are to understand ziyaratul waritha. But now I come to the discussion that we've understood what mirat is. But the question comes up is that what was the mirat of Sayyid al-Shuhada? That what did Imam al-Husayn take from each of these anbiya, and what was he receiving from each of them? You see, Ziyaratul Waritha, it mentions Imam al-Husayn as the inheritor of these prophets. But when you look at Ziyarat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, for example, it stated Imam Ali is the inheritor of the prophets. When you look at the ziyarat of the Imams in Samara, it says the same lines. Of the Imams in Kadmain, Imam Musa al-Qadim, Imam al-Jawad, it says the same lines. But what makes Imam al-Husayn unique is that this line of Imam al-Husayn being the inheritor of each of these prophets is repeated more in the ziyarat literature associated with Imam al-Husayn more than any other Imam. That on the ziyarah of the day of Arafah, you find this line. The ziyarah on the 1st of Rajab, you find this line. The ziyarah on the night of Qadr, you find this line. So there is a special, maksus inheritance of Imam al-Husayn from amongst all of the Aimma. That Imam al-Husayn manifests this inheritance more than each of them. Now, there are 4 things that Imam al-Husayn is inheriting. There are 4 types and categories of the mirat of Imam al-Husayn. The first category is al-miratul maddi, that the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, and Imam and Husayn are the inheritors of material entities from the prophets. It is stated within the traditions that the Anbiya had particular relics that would be passed from prophet to prophet all the way to Rasulullah. Then Rasulullah, upon his deathbed, gave to Amir al-Mu'mineen, who on his deathbed gave to Imam Hassan. And in the same way, it went to each of the Imams, including Imam al-Husayn. Now, there is a tradition of an individual by the name of Syed ibn Sammam that he goes to Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi.
اللهم صل
صل
على
على
محمد وعلى محمد
وعلى
وعجل
محمد.
فرجه.
One day, there were two individuals who were Zaydi within their belief. Of course, the Zaydis within their belief, they had the belief that an Imam must be somebody who is qa'imun bil sayf, that he must be somebody who uprises with a sword, and he is an Imam. That's why they believed in the Imamat of Zayd al-Shaheed, because he uprose with a sword, whereas they didn't believe in the Imamat of Imam Al-Baqir and Imam Al-Sadiq, because these individuals, they did not have uprisings. So they come, and these two Zaydi individuals, they ask Imam Al-Sadiq that who is the rightful Imam? Are you the rightful Imam, or is your uncle Zayd the rightful Imam? Imam al-Sadiq says that we are the rightful Imams. They said that how can you prove this? Imam al-Sadiq within the tradition, he says that one of the signs of the Imam is that the Imam has the relics and the inheritance of the past Anbiya. Imam al-Sadiq says, in the Suyufu Rasulullah, that with me are the swords of the Prophet. And with me is the shield of the Prophet. And with me is the loh and the tablet of Musa. And with me is the asa and the staff of Musa. And with me is the shirt of Yusuf. And with me is the ring of Sulaiman. All of these different things are with me. And the tabut, which was given to Banu Israel as a sign of Nabuwat, is with me, Ahlul Bayt, me, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. You know, it's stated within the traditions, when that day it came, where Amir al-Mu'mineen became the caliph after the other three individuals, of course, it was always the right of the Imam. It's stated upon that day, in the hadith, when Amir al-Mu'mineen, he goes to the mosque, on that day, he put on the shirt of Ibrahim. He put on the ring of Yusuf. He put on the amama of Rasulullah. He put on the aba of Rasulullah. He goes towards the mimbar. You know, when Imam Ali went towards the mimbar, each of those other three individuals, they would sit one step lower from each other. Rasulullah would sit on the top. The first sat one step lower. The second step sat another step lower. A third, he sat one step lower. So when Ali went towards the mimbar, all of them thought that Imam Ali was going to sit one step lower. So what did the Imam do? He places his foot where the third would sit. Then he places his foot where the second would sit. And then he places his foot where the first would sit, and he sits where Rasulullah would sit, and he says that today Haqq has returned back towards its position.
نار حيدري
يا
Ali.
محمد وعلى محمد صلوات.
اللهم
اللهم
صل على
على
محمد
محمد.
وعلى
Today,
محمد
truth
وعجل
has
فرجه.
returned towards its position, and it's stated that on that day, the ashab and the companions, they said, now for the first time after the death of the Prophet, we are reminded of the days of Rasulullah. So we have many hadith which talk about this material inheritance going towards the Imams from the Anbiya. You can refer to the hadith of Al-Kafi or Bihar al-Anwar. And each of these different entities, they have an inner reality. For example, Mufaddal bin Jofi, he asked Imam al-Sadiq that what is the qamis and the shirt of Yusuf? That what is the reality of the shirt of Yusuf? Imam al-Sadiq says that the shirt of Yusuf was actually the shirt of Ibrahim. And it was that shirt that when Ibrahim was being thrown into the fire by Nimrud, Jibreel descended and gave him one of the shirts of heaven. And after that, when he was in the fire, it became bardan wa salama, that it became cool for Ibrahim. And that shirt is with us, Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. And you know, the Quran, it speaks about the shirt of Yusuf, which Ahlul Bayt, Imam al-Husayn, they received. You know, the Quran, when speaking about this shirt in Surah al-Yusuf, It's stated when the brothers of Yusuf, they went towards Yusuf in the court, and you know the story that initially they didn't recognize him, but after Yusuf, he told them who he was. They said, "Are you really Yusuf?" So they said, Yusuf, he says that go towards my father. اذهبوا بقميصي هذا فألقوه على وجه أبي يأتي بصيرا. That when you go to my father, go and take him my shirt, put this shirt upon my father Yaqub, and his vision, it will come back. You see over here, an important principle is given with the shirt of Yusuf. Some they say that can we use intercession? Can we use intermediaries? I say Nabi Yaqub, who went blind from crying over Yusuf, he is a Nabi of Allah. The du'as of a Nabi of Allah are mustajab and they're accepted. But over here in this ayah, Nabi Yusuf doesn't say that I will make dua for my father. He says, no, I will take this shirt, that you take the shirt, put it on my father, and it would gain shafa. So we find out that anything which is associated with a prophet or the wasi of a prophet can give shifa and cure. Then why are people surprised that when they go to the dari of Sayyid al-Shuhada, or they have that khak and that dust from the land of Karbala, if the shirt of Yusuf can give shafa, why not the shirt or the objects related to the grandson of Rasulullah, the greatest of the
Nara Haidari.
Ya
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Inheritance of Imam al-Husayn from the Siyara is al-miratul maddi, the material inheritance. But the second inheritance Imam al-Husayn received from each of these anbiya is al-miratul ruhani, that he gained a spiritual inheritance. That whatever each of the prophets they had supporting their spirit, had supporting them from the spiritual realm, that was with Imam al-Husayn. For example, the Quran, when speaking about Isa, it says, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا إِيسَى بْنَ مَرْيَمْ الْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَيَّدْنَاهُ بِرُوحِ الْقُدُسِ. That we gave Isa support, we gave him the clear proofs, and we supported him with the Ruh al-Qudus. Of course, the nature and the reality of Ruh al-Qudus is outside the scope of this lecture. But you find this was an entity which supported each of the prophets in the same ways it continues towards the A'immah. But you find at the second level that whatever qualities of the prophets they were there, you find all of them are gathered within Sayyid al-Shuhada. And each of these prophets, it represented a certain thing. That's why when you read Ziyaratul Waritha, it doesn't say Assalamu alayka ya warita Adam, ya warita Nuh, ya warita Ibrahim, Isa. No, it doesn't say that. It says Assalamu alayka ya warita Adam safwatillah.
MashaAllah.
That peace be upon you, Husayn, the inheritor of Adam, the chosen of Allah. So this aspect of being the chosen of Allah, it continues to say the Shuhada. Nuhin Nabiullah. Of course, Imam al-Husayn is not a Nabi, but Imamat is an extension of Nabuwat. You find Ibrahim being the Khalil of Allah. In the same way, Husayn is the Khalil and the friend of Allah. And each of them, they represent a different reality. If Nabi Nuh, he represents Najat and salvation for those people on the ark that went on the ark. Then there is a tradition which says, Inna al-Husayn misbahul huda wa safinatul najat, that Husayn is the ark of salvation. But no, Imam Sadiq would say further than that. He says, Kulluna sufunun najat. All of us Ahlul Bayt are the arks of salvation. But then why is the hadith there that Husayn is the ark? He says, Walakin safinata jaddi al-Husayn awsa wa asra. But the ark of my grandfather Husayn is the widest of us Ahlul Bayt, and this is the one who moves the fastest.
Nara Haidari. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
That all of us Ahlul Bayt can take one towards salvation. But no, the movement of Husayn was such a movement that everyone can relate towards Sayyid al-Shuhada. So all of these qualities, they gather within Imam al-Husayn. That if we have a tradition in the Quran saying that Isa, he spoke from the cradle, from the Mahd, then Imam al-Husayn must also have the ability to speak from the cradle as well. So all of these qualities are there. And you know the famous hadith of Rasulullah speaking about Amir al-Mu'mineen, because this inheritance is for all of the Imams, as I said initially. He says, Man arada an yandura ila Adama fi ilmihi, wa ila Nuhin fi hilmihi, وإلى إبراهيم في خلته وإلى موسى في هيبته وإلى عيسى في روحه فلينظر إلى وجه علي ibn Abi Talib. The one who wants to see Adam in his knowledge, and Nuh in his forbearance, and Ibrahim in his closeness to Allah, and Musa in his grandeur and his haiba, and Isa within his spirit, then look at the face of Ali ibn Abi Talib. From all of these traditions and Ziyaratul Waritha, we understand in the way there were material objects inherited by Imam al-Husayn, he inherited the sifat and the osaf and the spiritual qualities and attributes of each of these prophets as well. So I said there were 4 categories of inheritance. The first category was a material inheritance. The second category was a spiritual inheritance. The third thing which Imam al-Husayn inherited from the other Anbiya was wilaya. You see, wilaya is of 2 types. There is wilayatul tashri'i and wilayatul takwini. There is one form of authority in law giving. Rasulullah had wilaya in law giving. That Rasulullah, for example, there are things we don't have choices in, but Rasulullah had choices in. For example, when we would travel, we have to recite the prayer when we are in a state of safar. We recite it shortened for the prayer of Dhuhr and Asr. Whereas Rasulullah, having that wilaya, was able to recite it in full. There was no qasr for Rasulullah, and the only time if he did it, if you accept those traditions, was to show the ummah that this is a part of the tashri' and the law of Islam. Otherwise, Rasulullah had wilaya in this area of law giving. But then there is a second type of wilaya. That second type of wilaya is wilayatul takwini, and authority over the created realm. Each of the imams, by the authority of Allah, have a level of control over the creation. And the Quran shows that the Anbiya had the same thing. The Quran, when it speaks about the Anbiya, it says, وَسُخِّرَ Sulaiman, that we gave Sulaiman the ability to control the winds. We gave him mantiqut tayr, the ability to speak towards the birds. All of these things were given towards Sulaiman. When it speaks about Isa, it says that Isa can bring the dead back to life. If Imam al-Husayn is the inheritor of these prophets in wilaya, everything the Quran says about these Anbiya they were able to do, then Sayyid al-Shuhada is able to do this.
Subhanallah.
Reading the Quran is reading the Fadail of Ahlul Bayt. And this is a very important point. When you read the Quran, it is reading the Fadail of Ahlul Bayt in what sense? That when you read about the virtues of each of these Anbiya within the Quran, then you realize that Ahlul Bayt had all of them. Each of these Anbiya had a maqsoos and a specific ability. But all of the Anbiya, when their virtues they come together, it doesn't come close to the virtues of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. And
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Over the time today, there's much to discuss and time is against me at this moment, but we'll try to finish on time. So you find all of them, they come together. It does not come close to the virtues of Ahlul Bayt. That's why the hadith, it says of Imam Al-Baqir, that they said that why is it that Asif bin Barkhia brought the throne of Bilqis? You know the famous story from the Quran. And in that state, you find he is asked that why didn't Sulaiman do it? Could Sulaiman not do it? The Imam says Sulaiman could do it, but he wanted his ummah to understand what the status of his wasi was. So when people say that could Rasulullah not lift the gate of Khaybar, Rasulullah could lift that gate. But he wanted his ummah to know what the status of his wasi was. Imam al-Baqir says that Sulaiman had 1 out of the 73 Asma al-A'dam. He says that Isa had 2 by which he would bring the dead back to life. He says Nuh had 24, Nuh had 14, Adam had 24. But he says us Ahlul Bayt have 72 out of the 73. And the only reason we aren't given all 73 is to create a difference that Allah is the Khaliq and the creator, and we are the
Subhanallah.
makhluk and the creation.
MashaAllah.
We find this is that reality. And there are many hadith that the people, they ask the imams that, do you have mantiqut tayr? We have hadith that say that, for example, Imam Sadiq, he taught his companion Jabir ibn Yazid al-Ju'fi the ability to speak towards the birds as well. So this is the third level of inheritance, and I'm speaking fast because the time is against me. So the fourth and final inheritance which Sayyid al-Shuhada took from the Anbiya is that he took the efforts and the struggles of the Anbiya. You see, each of these prophets, they face different struggles. They face different challenges. Each of their ummah had challenges. And Rasulullah would say in a hadith speaking about Banu Israel, that whatever Banu Israel faced, my ummah will face. And the challenges they built up, the efforts of Adam built to the efforts of Nuh. The efforts of Nuh built to the efforts of Ibrahim, and in that way the challenges increased. Rasulullah says no prophet was oppressed in the way I, Rasulullah, was oppressed. And you find all of the efforts of the Anbiya, they gather in Sayyid al-Shuhada, and all of the masaib of the Anbiya, they gather in Sayyid al-Shuhada. Although Ahlul Bayt, their inheritance is much greater than what each of the prophets have. But we have a hadith that when one becomes closer to Allah, the more challenges and trials he faces. That's why a mu'min and a believer will face more hardship than other individuals, because it is a test of his iman. And you find Sayyid al-Shuhada, he faced all those challenges. If Ibrahim faced the challenge of slaughtering his son Ismail, Allah, he saved Ibrahim from that challenge. But Husayn and Karbala sacrificed Ali Akbar and Ali Asghar. If Nabi Ayub had to face the challenge of his wealth taking away, the challenge of the hardship of the society speaking ill about him, Sayyid al-Shuhada, he faced these challenges. And you find amongst the challenges of Sayyid al-Shuhada was to sacrifice his companions. You see, the companions are the heartbeat and the support of the Imam. You know, they said to Nabi Ayub that you faced all of these challenges, your children, they died, and your wealth was taken away, and your wife, her beauty was taken away. But what was the most difficult moment for you? Nabi Ayub said, the most difficult moment is when my companions and friends, they began to speak ill about me. You see, the companions are those who support the Imam, and each of these companions that went towards Karbala, Sayyid al-Shuhada, he felt pain upon them. But there is one companion amongst all of the Ashab of Husayn who has a unique position, and that is Habib ibn Madahir. You know what the greatness of Habib is? The greatness of Habib is when you go for the ziyarat of Imam al-Husayn one time, you do the ziyarat of Habib 2 times. That when you go into the Haram in Karbala, on the left side is the shrine, is the resting spot of Habib. One time you do the ziyarat as you enter, the second time you do the ziyarah as you leave. And who is Habib? Habib is the one whom Imam al-Husayn invited. You know, when the man carrying the letter, he goes to the house of Habib, he says that I have a letter from your master Husayn. You know what the letter it said? It said, Min al-Husayn ibn Ali ila al-Rajul al-Faqih Habib ibn al-Madahir. That this is the letter of Husayn towards Habib, the one who was a scholar and the one with understanding. Habib, he kisses that letter. Habib, he places that letter upon his forehead. He begins to think at that letter. You know, the wife of Habib realized that today Habib's mizaj, Habib is acting differently. She says, oh, Habib, has something happened? Habib, he says that the son of Fatima, Imam al-Husayn, has sent this letter. He's fallen into difficulties. He has invited me to come. The wife of Habib, she says, Habib, then what will you do? Habib says, I am thinking what to do at this moment. The wife of Habib says, oh Habib, the son of Fatima is calling you and you're thinking at this moment.
Allahu
Habib
Akbar.
says, no, I only wanted to take your imtihan. I only wanted to take your test. Habib ibn Madahir, he takes his servant, he goes towards Karbala. You know, when he goes towards Karbala, you find the companions of Husayn, when they saw Habib, they began to say, Allahu Akbar. It stated that Sayyida Zainab, she says, "O Fidda, who has come?" You see, Habib was the only happiness of Husayn in Karbala.
Allahu Akbar.
Habib, this is a great point of the fadail of Habib. Imam and Husayn is always content in the decree of Allah, but the only happiness we have in the hadith, which is explicitly expressed by the Imam, is when Habib ibn Madahiri comes to Karbala. You know, Sayyida Zainab, she says, oh Fidda, who has come towards Karbala? The Fidda says, oh Zainab, it is Habib ibn Madahir. Sayyida Zainab says, give my salams towards Habib. When the salams of Zainab, they reach Habib, Habib, he takes his amama, he takes his turban, he puts it on the ground. He says, what days have come upon the daughters of Ali, that the daughter of Ali, Zainab, is giving her salams to a servant like Habib?
Allahu Akbar.
Habib, he spent his life serving Ahlul Bayt. One day, Rasulullah, he goes and he praises Habib towards his father. The father of Habib Madahir says that, why do you praise my son in this manner? Rasulullah says, whenever I would see Habib, he would take the dust from under my child Husayn and he would place it upon his head. You find Habib, he goes. Habib ibn Madahir on the day of Ashura, he begins to fight at that moment. But it says, فَقَتَلُوهُ إِرْبًا إِرْبًا. They surround Habib from all sides. The moment it comes that Habib, he falls on the ground. He gives his final farewells towards Sayyid al-Shuhada. He says, oh my master, have I fulfilled my promise towards you? I say, oh Habib, you fulfilled that promise. What can we say? It stated when news reached the wife of Habib after Karbala that Habib was martyred, the wife of Habib, she said to the man bringing the news, you know, I'm sure they buried Husayn. Husayn is the grandson of Rasulullah, but Habib is from Kufa. I know the people of Kufa. They didn't bury Habib. Take this kafan and put it upon the body of Habib. When that man, the servant, he goes, he notices there wasn't just one body. There were 73 bodies laying in the plains of Karbala. He returns to Kufa to the wife of Habib. He returns with the kafan in his hand. The wife of Habib says, did you not bury Habib? That why is this kafan in your hand? He says, oh lady, you only gave me one kafan, whereas there were 73 bodies laying in the plains of Karbala. Ya Allah, we pray for those who are sick and ailing. We pray for those who are in need of du'as. And we pray for the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ.
اللهم صل على محمد
محمد
وعلى
وآل
وعجل
محمد.
فرجه.
جزاك الله خير.
MashaAllah. May I please request Sayyid Hadi Rizvi to come and recite the Noha. Allahumma salli
صل
ala
على
Muhammad wa
محمد وآل محمد. घर से जाने लगे शबीर तो सुहरा ने कहा ले चलो मुझको भी बीमार तुम्हें देगी दुआ हो जाना खफारा गर रोएगी सुहरा یا نیند کب آتی ہے جو وہاں سوئے گی سغرا. بابا بابا تنہائی سزا ہے مجھے، ایسی نہ سزا دو. میں یہ نہیں کہتی کہ ہماری میں بٹھا دو، میں یہ نہیں کہتی کہ ہماری میں بٹھا دو. بابا 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 مجھے فضا کی سواری میں بٹھا دو. میں یہ نہیں کہتی کہ ہماری میں بٹھا دو. سب بیٹھے سواری پہ میں پیدل ہی چلوں گی، وعدہ ہے کسی کو کوئی تکلیف نہ دوں گی. بابا بابا اماں سے میں ہرگز نہ کہوں گی کہ دوا دو. میں یہ نہیں کہتی کہ ہماری میں بٹھا دو. پلکوں سے میں سایہ علی اصغر پہ کروں گی، اماں کی سواری سے بہت دور رہوں گی. بابا بابا ہاں کیا ہے کہ میری زیست کے کچھ روز بڑھا دو. میں یہ نہیں کہتی کہ ہماری میں بٹھا دو. میں پانی پلاؤں گی سواری کو تمہاری، بہلاؤں گی رستے میں سکینہ کو تمہاری. بابا بابا جو کام کنیزوں کے ہیں سب مجھ کو بتا دو. میں یہ نہیں کہتی کہ ہماری میں بٹھا دو. سب نظر چراتے ہیں کوئی دم نہیں بھرتا، سچ ہے کوئی مردے سے محبت نہیں کرتا. بابا بابا توقیر میری یہ ہے تو مرنے کی دعا دو. میں یہ نہیں کہتی کہ ہماری میں بٹھا دو. میں یہ نہیں کہتی کہ ہماری میں بٹھا دو. یا حسین یا حسین.
یا متوجہ زیارت.
السلام علیکم یا باب اللہ، السلام علیکم یا ابن رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم یا ابن امیر المؤمنین وابن سید الوسیل، السلام علیکم یا ابن فاطمہ الزہراء سیدۃ النساء العالمین، السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم یا غریب الغرباء، السلام علیکم یا معین الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام علیکم شمس السمود، السلام علیکم انیس النفوس، السلام علیکم یا منفون بیرزدوس راج بالقدر والقضاء علی ابن موسی الرضا ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم صاحب العصر والزمان علمان 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 من فتنة الزمان السلام علیکم شریک القرآن السلام علیکم خلیفۃ الرحمن السلام علیکم امام الانس والجان اجل اللہ تعالی فرجک وسهل اللہ تعالی مخرجک وظہورک ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ما شاء الله.
الرحمن
الرحیم اللہم ولیک حجت ابن الحسن صلواتک علیہ وعلی آبائی فی هذه الساعة وفي كل شان وليا محافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه وزكاته وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللهم
صل على محمد وآل
محمد. ما شاء الله
ما شاء الله.
جزاك